Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm Dear Darling, as you'll see what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhallow today in a rather late night episode, Animal Crossing, which we'll be recording now, and then recording an episode of another Crab's Treasure afterwards. I'm gonna not be here for a weekend. I'll be leaving early in the morning tomorrow. I've not packed yet, but I'm also leaving for literally 2 nights, so there's not really a lot to pack, but nonetheless, it still needs to be done. You know what I was going to check actually, which we're going to do in the middle of an Animal Crossing episode, which I'm seeing wanting to do for whatever reason, is do all my things I need to in the middle of Animal Crossing. Is I don't remember what baggage size I need. But good evening everyone. Right now in Fawnhallow it's 10:36 p.m. on Thursday, June 19th, 2025. I was just like, am I even reading this correctly? And the answer is yes, I am. Yes, so what are we talking about? Let me find my... Where is my friend's message? Here we go. How big is it? 4 small cabin beds. 45, 36, 20. Including any handles or wheels. Hold on. That's actually very small now I think about it. 45 is about up to here. 36 is about that wide. 20 about that wide. I think that bag will... Okay, I know which bag I'm going to bring. I was thinking of bringing the bigger bag, but I think that bigger bag might be too big actually. Anyway, my friend called me out for the fact that I haven't talked about any of the D&D sessions this week. Instead I just talked about Everything Is Fine twice in a row because it was on my mind. That's fair, because I haven't spoken about Animal Crossing D&D. I can speak about it. I think there's not too much crazy to say, because I think they're both defined by like one big thing which happened. In one of the sessions it was the big reveal of apparently not that big a reveal to one of my friends from the response, but yes, the reveal that the patron of a warlock is essentially, I don't know how to say this, turning them into the patron. Like, obviously there's more details to it, but that reveal was literally at the end of the last session, so it's not something which I'm like really gone into more for. One of my friends is very surprised by it. Or, well, not even if she ended up being surprised by it, I suppose. More had a much more visible reaction. Which is very good at those, to be honest. Which, you might be like, oh, they feel so fake or something. I'm like, no, come on. We're bonding with the human genuinity. There's emotional cause both inside and outside. Muted and large reactions. Let's not, I think I'd be spitting my face in of, well, my own vibe, I suppose, if I was just like, oh, only big reactions count or anything like that. Because I'm very much someone who has very muted reactions to a lot of things, to be honest. But yeah. It's also really hot recently. So I'm just like evaluating my head, like I should probably have a shower, I think. But then I'm also going to be like packing at like midnight, which seems a little bit late. But I'm leaving at like 5 or something in the morning, which is, oh, you know what? That's, great call. No one in particular. I need to set my alarms. Otherwise I am going to, well, I'm not going to miss things, hopefully, but it would be a smart idea to set custom alarm 5 a.m. Set another one for one of my friends are coming 5:45. 5:30 is like the absolute latest. I'll put one for 4:40 as well, just in case. Because I think it's probably a good idea to be able to have these alarms in the first place, so I remember to actually wake up. You might be like, oh, what about your natural alarm clock? My natural alarm clock wakes up on natural time. It does not. It doesn't always wake me up exactly when I need to. For other timings like this, so I don't think it'll wake me up at 5 a.m. I'm sorry to say. I mean, I can try it. I will try to will myself into waking up naturally at like 4:15. I might as well not go to sleep, to be honest. At this rate, but whatever. Anyway. Yes, so D&D, yeah, that was a big reveal in the first one. Like, I mean, there's not much else to say about it, because that's, like, kind of it. I feel like it probably won't have an impact if you're not in the D&D session, because you don't really know much of a context. Basically, the player character has a patron who, slowly was revealed that she ended up, recruiting not just him, but his siblings or family, quote quote, into into some contract deals at the same time. But she had these very, very mysterious and weird ways of working, which was brought up many times, about why. At first, there was basically an opportunity I gave to be like, okay, you can either kill your family member and rid yourself of part of your contract, or you can inherit their contract as well and double up and free them from it. And then, obviously, you know, me as a DM was like, obviously the player is going to not kill their family member, probably. But to be fair, they could have surprised me and killed the family member, and I did have it out for it then. But I was like, obviously they're not going to kill their family member. That, I would be very surprised. That goes against a lot of their character growth and development. So they didn't. But then there became a lot of questions, you know, like people in discussions about it, being like, why is she, the patron, doing it like this? What does she really get out of this? It doesn't really make sense. And then it basically became the reveal that there were some clues earlier on when the character tried to read the contract in certain ways and saw that people who, the contracts he's inheriting, the base people don't lose their powers. And also, weirdly, it seems to be like some sort of, and I'm not sure if I said this actually, because I don't think I got high enough investigation, but it's some sort of transference of some kind. But it's not written in the same of like breaking, in the same way of breaking a contract. And then there's more discussions about it, and then there was that big climactic moment with the demon. And them revealing the patron to the demon, a different demon, and that demon being like, who the heck is this? I want them dead, basically. And then them using it as leverage against the pact demon to be like, hey, you gotta like tell us stuff now, otherwise I'm just gonna go make my own deal. And she was like, fine, okay, you win. Well, you know, here's what I'm doing. Congratulations, you're the patron now. Essentially. So they don't have a full story necessarily why. I think they almost certainly have ideas, and they're probably correct, because from a lot of their theories are actually very accurate, I will say, because, you know, as I always say, if you're in a D&D thing, talk about your theories, save them to the DM will love it. Absolutely. I mean, like, come on, we spent like the entire time building this world. Of course I want you to make guesses and estimations about it and put the pieces together. That's a reason I built it. Kind of like a riddle master being like, come on, I want you to solve a riddle. Anyway, the point being, that happened, and it was a big reveal. I think it was a great sort of like capstone moment, like there was big punches left and right, like in 2 consecutive sessions, essentially, of the Demon of Obsession, and then like a follow-up punch with big character reveal. Like, it's probably like, I'm not saying this character arc is over or anything, but I think that is the second beat of that character's arc or whatever, and now they're on to the third and final phase, probably. There might be a 4th phase, I don't really know, to be honest. I mean, I think it probably is, depending, again, it depends how long the campaign goes on for, but now they're in the know, they've inherited half of their family's contracts, half of their family is still out there. What are they going to do? Don't know. Side with them, not side with them, betray them, who knows? That's what makes it so very interesting. And I'm very excited to see exactly what happens with that. Anywho, in the other session, what happened in the other session? Oh yeah, I completely forgot about this. So there was definitely one major thing. They were basically going back, but they kind of went on a side tangent quest. I spoke about it before, like the initial plot line I had for this act. I had sort of set out, I don't say they, well, like one person, and then another person, 2 of them are completely innocent in my eyes, completely blew up the entire plans and basically incriminated them, or basically revealed not their entire hand to the enemy, but did not do a great job at hiding their hand to the enemy. is probably what I'd say. What did I just do? And ended up putting them in a difficult situation where it's like, okay, they probably have to lay low for a while. But then they had like a random encounter. So they did that. Like I had to do basically a different Act 2 capstone, because I was like, well, I can't really do that one anymore. So they basically did an Act 2 capstone, which contributed more, I think, to the overall arching plot and a bit to another character's story. And now we're going back to, I think, pick up where they left off. Maybe, kind of. They really like going to the Adventurers Guild to do quests, to be honest, when I was like, okay, I mean, you can. It wasn't my intention necessarily to use it as a narrative device to do things, but if they want to climb that corporate ladder, they can climb that corporate ladder, and I will still find a way to tie in the character stories to it. But yes, at some point they're going to hopefully re-pick up that thread. And to be fair, I guess it kind of makes sense, because I did save my initial plans for this entity that up against, this organisation that up against. I was like, this is probably too big to fit in Act 2. I think it will probably stretch to Act 3. Well, it did. Not in the way I intended, but it did. Anyway, the big thing that ended up happening is they rolled for a random encounter, and they rolled quite high. Or I should say they rolled a specific range, and that random encounter, I was like, oh, this is going to be a really fun random encounter. Because some of them are quite sort of small and like meant to be much more like flesh out the world. Some are meant to be like very vague hints to things that are going on, which might only make sense in retrospect. Some are meant to be much more medium impact, where we can actually get some good details, and some are sort of big swings, or very interesting things in one way or another, or memorable is perhaps a way to put it. And they basically rolled in a range which was like, this is meant to be a memorable encounter. And they basically ran into a very funny character who's been sitting on the sidelines for a while, waiting for an encounter, essentially, for them to be brought out. Definitely one of the two, I think, more anticipated characters, I think, in my mind, because one of two, in my mind, much more comedic characters. Like, a lot of the characters I end up playing quite serious or quite straight. Not in a way of serious that, like, that only, like, no business, no fun, only business, but more so in the way that they're, like, I'm not sure if realistic is the right word, but they're sort of believable in the world, right? They're not like a caricature necessarily. They might have a strong personality trait in one way or another, but they sort of, you know, would be you'd be like, this seems hopefully like a plausible person I would meet in real life. These two characters, one of them I talked about before was the girl failure character in the other campaign. She is very sort of like over the top to a ridiculous degree, at least her initial introduction, and then, you know, the plan was to sort of reel her in, especially because they liked the character a lot. And the other character is this character they met this session, who is basically, I don't know how to describe her except for she is like, it's like she stepped out a fairy tale. She's like a knight from a fairy tale, where it's like, well met, travellers. You know, fear not, for I am here. She's meant to have a Greek accent, by the way, and I was trying to like practice it, and it's difficult. I mean, like, a lot of the accents I do is like, I'm trying to practice basically accents, so that's why a lot of them I do. I'm just like, I don't have no idea how to do this accent. Let's try and figure it out. The Greek one definitely have not nailed. The only thing I can think about is the fact that, but the way I try and trigger it is like, I say cookie is apparently cookie. And they have elongated vowels a lot of the time, but I don't think I've heard enough basic media in a Greek accent to really develop it. But it's a lot of fun. She's so like over the top. She's basically, I think I would consider her a chunibyo, if you know the American term, like someone who has delusions of grandeur, except for instead of being like, I am the chosen dark one, she's like, I am the hero, shining light, who is going to save the world, essentially. She's a lot of fun, and she's very, very silly, and I think my players were immediately enamoured with her, which is always what you like to see. And I think that's a good thing, I think, with a lot of the fact that a lot of the NPCs I have are quite sort of straight-laced in a way that, like, yes, they are true to their characters in a sense. These two characters are more born from a jokey idea in the first place. You know, one of them being like, what if a character was just a complete girl failure? And the other one being like, what if a character just fully believed that they were the savior of the world in the crazy delusional sense, but in a harmless way at the same time. I think comparing these characters to the much more sort of serious characters, especially some of the more like dark evil characters, gives a nice sort of breath of fresh air. So it's sort of like, it's almost like written in the stars. Of course they're going to be characters which are going to win them over. It would be almost wild if it didn't. So yeah, comedic characters. So depending on the tone of your campaign, I don't think you should have too many in your campaign, but I think I've got enough where I'm just like, I've got some other characters with much more comedic leanings, but these characters are ones which I'm like, yeah, this is like a true comedic character in a sense, where like, yes, they were born with a concept, the character was created with a concept of being, the primary goal was not necessarily to advance the plot, was for entertainment in a sense, to give a breath of levity. I will say, the original intent for this character, Fat Payment, who is called I, which is yes, it was chosen because it would be very funny, because they always go like, I am something, and is she referring to her name, or is she referring to her in first person pronoun? Who knows? But then, at least there's very funny, like, who's on first moments. Where you are you, I am you. No, I am I, you are you. I am me, that sort of thing. So yeah, I think it gives a nice sort of breath of levity. I don't do too many, because I think I kind of want the players, I think, to bring their own sort of tone, and then I'll match it with the characters there are. And some characters are good at joking around, and I feel like having a character born completely out of a comedic mindset and then nothing else is a bit restrictive. But in this case, I think it ends up working because there's not too many. And the original plan for this character was meant to be a recurring, like, travelling person that they see, and they'll be like, oh, here's I again, and they just, like, she just turns up in random places, essentially. For lore reasons I can't necessarily reveal. She does have lore. She just started from a comedic conceit, and then I interwove into a space where I was like, okay, I need an NPC to fill up this slot. But this character has now been recruited as part of an adventuring party. Not in the sense, from meta level, I'm not going to allow them to basically have an extra member, because they don't need an extra member. But she will, be a powerful ally for them, essentially. There's also a very interesting thing where now the two parties have a shared ally, which was not necessarily going to be my initial intention. I always left it open for this was possible, but it was sort of something which emerged where yes, this character was intended to be an ally for this campaign and is an ally, a big ally for and helping for this campaign, but then it's okay, but the other campaign needs a wizard. They're researching things about memory loss, which is to do with enchantment, which makes sense because that is an ongoing thing in the world. One of the characters is from the region where this character is, and that's where we did the side quest, and I was like, okay, it only makes sense. I'm not going to create another duplicate exact same character filling the exact same role when I could just use the same character. So that's pretty cool. It's nice to basically have a campaign to feel a bit more interconnected, but they're both sort of it's like their own, it's like Alpha Team, Bravo Team, they've got their own sort of squad goals, one's researching demons, one's researching the undead, but now actually also big change up as well is that I've given them ascending stones so they can exchange messages between each other, and the last two messages that they've exchanged to each other have actually both been genuinely very, very useful, in my opinion. Where I looked at them and I was like, yes, this is actually really helpful, because it was always my intention, but it's they do have information which they can share with each other and help accelerate each other faster. But then immediately it was one of them tried to start off with let's have a sort of light-hearted joke, sort of break the ice and that sort of thing, and the other was why do they just send us useless information? We're going to respond with a better joke. And then the other person's whoa, they came on really strong back with our joke, and then it just basically accelerated from there, and both parties thought the other was utterly useless for a while. It was very, very funny from a DM perspective, because I was like, that's not what I imagined happening, but if this is what happens, so be it. Anyway, comedic characters I think are a lot of fun. We like a character to sort of break up the monotony or the seriousness every now and then. Anyway, I'm going to have this episode up here. I'm going to record another Capture Treasure, I'm going to have a shower, and then I'm going to pack, I guess. So, if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares, greatly appreciated. Social Discord down below. Hope to see each other again, but for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, bye-bye for now.